What up, guys? Your boy Quake back with a brand new episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast, number 327. And like I said on the last podcast, guys, literally right when I got done recording the podcast, the next morning, some crazy news happens. And always then I have to wait a couple days till I record the next podcast. It's hilarious how some of this stuff just happens, the timing of everything. And what am I talking about in terms of news? I'm talking about Lil Durk. He got picked up by the feds for a plot of murder for hire. And I'm going to be breaking this down towards the end of this podcast in detail of everything that went on. I'm even going to quote some lyrics and, we'll see what happens moving forward. And I'm going to give my thoughts on it. Obviously, you guys know how I do things. I'll put the facts out there of what's going on, and then later on I give my opinion on what's potentially going to happen. But that's the biggest news that's happened these couple of days. And I'll talk about a little bit more, but later on. But I saw this coming. This is nothing surprising to me. I was shocked at the timing. I did think it would take a little bit longer. I did expect maybe next year something like this to happen, but I wasn't shocked. Durk, even when King Von was alive, was having cases on him, and Durk's been in the streets and been in and out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out for a while. So it wasn't really a surprise to me. And, you can, in the music, when you listen to it, you can tell he had something to do with something. It just depends on what the situation was. And I think he's going to go down for more things, but we'll talk about that down the line. First, we have to report on sad news. DJ Clark Kent has passed away at the age of 58 years old. There was reports of his passing on social media a couple weeks ago. It was false, but secretly he was battling colon cancer for 3 years. Never told anybody. Probably just family members knew. And he passed away. So let's go over the article. DJ Clark Kent's family has sadly confirmed that the legendary hip-hop figure has passed away at the age of 58 following a 3-year battle with colon cancer. A post to his Instagram account on Friday, October 25th revealed he'd passed the night before while surrounded by his loved ones. So the family actually posted a statement. It is with deep sadness that we share the passing of the beloved, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Rodolfo A. Franklin, known to the world as DJ Clark Kent. Clark passed away Thursday evening, surrounded by his devoted wife, Kesha, daughter, Cabria, and son, Antonio. Clark quietly and valiantly, I'm going to pronounce this word wrong. I hate then some of these words. I don't know why I mess them up. Valiantly fought a 3-year battle with colon cancer while continuing to share his gifts with the world. The family is grateful for everyone's love, support, and prayers during this time and ask for privacy as they process this immense loss. As far as DJ Clark Kent, the number one thing that I know him for, and of course this is the 50 Cent fan of me, is the Fuck You 50 record, where 50 gets shot, disappears after he gets shot, nobody knows what's going on, and he comes out with the first track being Fuck You. That's the track that DJ Clark Kent produced, and unfortunately I'll never be able to get this story from him because I wanted to eventually interview or do a documentary more on that story of that record coming out. Maybe the Power of the Dollar type of documentary, like the Get Rich or Die Trying one that I did, but do a Power of the Dollar one and have that story of that moment. Now, could I have put that in the Get Rich or Die Trying one? Yes, I could have, because we did touch on that. But I just never ended up getting in touch with him, and I felt like it was more appropriate for Power of the Dollar because it kind of feeds that story a little bit more. But unfortunately, I won't get the chance to do that. But yeah, legend. He's produced for Jay-Z, Biggie, every hip-hop New York artist you can think of and more, right? Junior Mafia, he had the huge hit with Junior Mafia, Questlove, whatever, a bunch of artists, and just overall great DJ as well. So hip-hop lost a legend, man, at that young age of 58. That's not even that old, man. Condolences to his friends and family. Rest in peace to DJ Clark Kent. Travis Scott has officially avoided trial for the Astroworld lawsuits and settled everything. Let's go over the article. Travis Scott will once again avoid trial in the deathly 2021 Astroworld tragedy after settling nearly 100 injury lawsuits related to the incident. Yes, he has settled nearly 100 lawsuits relating to injury to this Astroworld situation. According to a report from Texas Law Book published on Monday, October 21st, Scott and concert partner Live Nation settled personal injury suits with bellwether plaintiffs Angel Dominguez and Elizabeth Martinez just days before the trial was set to kick off in Houston. A bellwether plaintiff means they're representing a larger group of people who are suing for the same reason. So settling with Dominguez and Martinez satisfied nearly 100 plaintiffs. The settlement was reached after the Texas Supreme Court denied Live Nation CEO Michael Rapinoe's attempt to avoid being deposed in the case, which was set for Monday, October 21st. One more bellwether plaintiff remains, Henry Nugan, whose trial has been rescheduled for a later date. Yeah, as noted, these lawsuits all pertain to injured victims. In May, Travis Scott settled the last remaining wrongful death lawsuit against him in the tragedy. Why are we not getting any numbers? I'm just curious. With him settling the death lawsuits and the injury lawsuits, how much money did all this cost? I don't know. What would be the cost of settling but almost 100 lawsuits? And then all the death lawsuits, which I think were about 8 or 9 deaths that happened. I could be wrong on that. Or 9-year-old was 10 victims. So there's 10 people that died. So he had to settle 10 death lawsuits and almost 100 injury-related lawsuits. If I had to guess a number, this might sound a little crazy, but I think this is what happened. I think he paid roughly, Live Nation as well, because Live Nation got sued too. I think they both paid in total of all these lawsuits, probably $20 million. I'm willing to bet. I don't know how much Travis Scott himself out of his pocket paid for that stuff, but I know Live Nation paid majority of that. I'm assuming, because this going to trial would just make things. First off, it would bring it back into the headlines a lot more, and it would ruin more of Travis Scott's brand, because a lot of people have moved on and forgot about the situation besides the victims, right? Travis Scott drops an album, sells like crazy. People are still going to his concerts. People could give two fucks about the Astroworld incident now. That's been, 2-3 years later, which is unfortunate, But these people that have been injured and that have had people that have been killed, they have to live with it forever. But I think that's why they settled it, because they're like, if this goes to trial, there's gonna be a lot of headlines. The Live Nation CEO is gonna be there. I'm sure Travis Scott has to go to the trial, and it's just gonna cause Travis Scott to lose more money, because he's gonna have to take out time to go to the trial, and it's gonna ruin the brand image, right? Because people have kind of moved on from the situation, at least the people that weren't personally affected by it. So bringing that back and reminding people about it is potentially harmful for Travis Scott's brand, because he's really managed to kind of make people forget about the situation by releasing music, by doing other things, and just building his brand of what he's doing. So smart move on there, and to settle, just get it out the way. And hey, shit happens, and shit happened here, and a lot of people got injured and 10 people died. Whatever money that these people got, they deserve every penny of it. I hope they got more than what they deserved, because even injuries, man. Some of these, you think injuries is like, oh, it's just an injury, you'll heal, be all right. Some injuries are permanent, man. Depends on who got injured and how. Some are permanent, that can cause nerve damage, that can cause a lot of different things, and just PTSD as well, man. Now it's a lot of these people probably don't want to go to any concerts, because it's like you get PTSD from a lot of this stuff, and I think that's it. I don't really know any more about this lawsuit. If there's any settlements that he has to do in the future, we'll see. But I think that's it. He settled all the wrongful deaths, all the injuries, and that's literally the close to the chapter of all these lawsuits. I was interested in seeing, if this went to trial, but it didn't, or at least let us know how much money was settled. Because I'm a pocket watcher, guys. I just love pocket watching, right? I genuinely just curious what the amount was. I'm assuming it's like 20 million. That's the amount that I'm thinking, with all the deaths, with all the injuries. That might be actually a low number. I don't know. I really don't know what somebody could get out of this. If it's 20 million, there's 10 deaths. I'm sure the deaths ones are getting the most of the money, because some of them probably on the death side are getting 500,000 to $1 million. I could throw in maybe 30 million. Maybe that's to settle everything. But Live Nation has that money. That's for Live Nation. That's chump change. And Travis Scott could throw in 10 million and it wouldn't affect him. 15 million, whatever. He's married to a billionaire, or was. I don't know. He's not married with her, but Kylie Jenner. They have a kid together. She's basically a billionaire. She is a billionaire. I don't even know. I don't keep up with the Kardashians, but yeah, they got money to blow, so this is not a big deal for them. But yeah, we'll see what happens if there's anything that changes moving forward, but that seems like that chapter is officially closed. So new updates regarding Diddy's bail attempt. Let's go over the article. Diddy has scored a minor victory in his attempt to be freed from jail as his bail appeal was put on hold while he awaits a new bail hearing in U.S. District Court. The embattled mogul received the news on Thursday, October 24th, when the order was filed. Last week, independent reporter Megan Kniff shared information on the evolving situation around the same time that the request was granted despite the objection of prosecutors. Prosecutors have filed opposition to Sean Diddy Combs' bail appeal with Second Circuit, she wrote on X, in arguing that Judge Carter aired Combs entirely ignored the serious and violent nature of charges against them and the strength of evidence against them. In a second tweet, Kniff added, however, Combs' lawyers want the appeal put on hold while they pursue a new bail hearing in the U.S. District Court. The renewed request is based on changed circumstances warranting a new bail hearing, which the district court is best suited to consider in the first instance. They're basically saying, listen, we got some new information, put this first request on hold. They said, okay, you guys can submit a new one, blah, 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 blah. Will he get out? No, I doubt it. I'm willing to bet 80% chance that he does not get out. That 20 is like very, very minimal, but that's the quick update when it comes to the Diddy situation. Legendary member of the Wu-Tang Clan, RZA, got asked about the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef. And whenever a legendary person like this, and that comes from, like, I think at least the prime hip-hop where actually lyrics mattered, and it was really about hip-hop and not clout and murder and blah, 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 that's going on now. When they speak on certain situations when it comes to battles, I really want to hear their opinion, because to me, I hold their opinion to really, really high regard, because they were there when it was at its prime and delivering some of the best music that they, possibly ever in hip hop culture, right? So let's go over what RZA said about the Drake and Kendrick Lamar battle, and I really liked his take on it. So Wu-Tang Clan legend shared his thoughts on the high-profile beef in an interview with Complex and questioned Drizzy's decision-making, which is another thing that I questioned, because some of it just didn't. It seemed like Drake was a little off in this battle in one way or another. I think he didn't take it, and I said this probably at least 6-7 times when talking about this battle. He didn't really take it serious, but that's no excuse, right? That's your fault for not pretending like Kendrick Lamar isn't a threat when he's literally the second biggest artist from your generation. You're the biggest because commercially, you sold the most, but Kendrick is literally second to you. He has sold what, 700? Damn, did almost 700,000 first week. He's been up there in high sales, has had #1 hits by himself. J. Cole has been third commercially. I'm just talking commercial success. I'm not talking anything else in quality of music, just commercially. Drake has been the #1 dog throughout that whole generation that's come. So that whole, my take on that is like, why did he never take the second guy serious? Let's go over what RZA said, though. He said this. First of all, Kendrick is a natural lyricist, and Drake is a trained lyricist. You can train a fighter, and he could be good. Then you got those natural fighters who also then go through training, he said. So that's a different chamber there. And while Drake got bars forever, Kendrick's bars potency was stronger. So the battle bar for bar was something that was just not good advising on Drake's camp, in the sense of just getting in that fight without really taking some more training for that. When Kendrick wrote the letter to his son or his daughter and to his mother, Kendrick is going to come like that. Nas, Kendrick, Eminem, Raekwon, certain people are going to break your shit down to the element. Exactly. Shout out to RZA. He continued, said, but in doing so, I do think that a lot was said, and Drake is a powerful artist in our culture. He helped the culture when the culture needed it. He expanded it with his melodies, and he raised a generation too. And you can't take that away from him. So, of course, I agree with that. I think Drake has, of course, moved hip-hop forward. There's no question about that. And just the fact that he's been consistent throughout all these years is something that we've never seen in hip-hop. We've never seen somebody be so consistent and not take a hiatus, right? Eminem took a 4-year hiatus. Jay-Z took a hiatus of, I believe, 3 years. Yeah, somewhere around there. Uh, every artist in hip hop has took, when they had their like first run, they took a little break in between, and then they get their second leg. Usually, those legendary artists do. But Drake just never. There really wasn't that moment where you could say, "Oh, he took this break." Now, was there a year that he didn't drop an album? Yeah, but he was still active and doing features and dropping songs and stuff like that. RZA also said he hopes that the former collaborators can eventually make peace. It took years for Nas and Jay-Z to swallow that pill and then come and shake hands on it. So hopefully it is not the same. Hopefully this generation can take it as fun, like how the beginning generation took it more for fun. Hopefully as they mature more as humans, they would go, wow, that shit was crazy. That shit was fun. I ate you up, son. You know what I mean? But yo, I love that other joint. My son, love your joint. My son, love your joint. And here we are for the culture coming together. I agree on that. I think, but I don't know why. I just don't. Actually, you know what? I can see Drake and Kendrick eventually squashing this. I don't know what it would take. I don't know what moment they would do it, but I could see that happening, honestly. Even though the problem with this beef, it's been brewing for years, like subliminally, for years, ever since the Control verse. That really took things to, at least Drake took it more personal versus all the other artists. And ever since then, there's been subliminals. So when I made my Nas versus, it's hilarious. RZA's talking about it here, but when I made my Nas versus Jay-Z, Who Really Won documentary, I said in the video that moment is two artists who are at the top of their game going at it, and that doesn't happen often. And Drake and Kendrick at the top of their game going at it, right? And I said if Drake and Kendrick were to battle, it would be like Nas versus Jay-Z, because that's like peak artist at the top of hip hop culture going at it for the crown. Now, Nas and Jay-Z obviously squashed their beef as the years went on. Can Drake and Kendrick do it? I don't know, because Nas and Jay-Z stuff, yeah, there were subliminals, right? And it slowly started brewing up. But Drake's and Kendrick's was like years and years and years and years and years. Nas and Jay-Z's was probably 2 years, maybe 3 years of like some subliminals here and there. But look at Drake and Kendrick's was what Control came out in 2012, I think, maybe 2013. We're talking almost 10 years of just subliminally dissing each other. And then finally, Kendrick says, you know what, fuck it. After first person shooter, I'm going to go after you guys and attack you guys. He even dragged J. Cole a little bit in it. But yeah, I like what RZA said, right? Kendrick is more of a natural lyricist. To him, he's more about the hip hop craft and culture and brewing a story in his albums. Has Drake done that? Can Drake do that? Yes. But I feel like Drake, and this, like Kendrick has said, to his credit, Drake hasn't, he's from Canada. He hasn't really been part of hip hop culture. He viewed it from afar and was a fan of it. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar grew up in it. Obviously, Compton and LA, gang culture, all that stuff. He grew up in it. He's part of that. He was bred in that. And for him, it's when he's rapping like that, he knows. He's seen it. He's been there. Drake has been, not to say that Drake, hasn't seen some things or done some things, but Drake's been more like, hey, I'm living with my mom. I'm an actor in my teens. I'm viewing this cool thing called hip hop, and I want to be a part of it. And there's a difference in that. And Drake is more of a trained artist versus Kendrick, who naturally has it. It's like Floyd Mayweather, natural talent. Does he train hard? Yes, but he takes that natural talent and with hard and has a hard drive, work ethic, and combines the two, and that's why he ended up being one of the best. And that applies to a lot of athletes as well. Like if you have natural talent, there's some artists that are just naturally talented at writing, and they grind really hard and they get even better, and that's how they become one of the GOATs. And that's what this guy's saying here. I mean, RZA, this guy, I just said like some random guy just said this. That's what RZA's saying here. He's saying that Drake, in a respectful way, is saying he was out of the culture. That's the way I'm taking it, at least. And he got bred into it and slowly and started learning about it and slowly starting to get better and better and better. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar just naturally had that talent, already had an eye for words and putting them together, got better and better as he grew, but like he naturally had it and was born into it. So that's the way I took it, and I agree. I think RZA worded it perfectly. But Drake, that's not to take away from Drake. Drake is obviously a very talented artist. Has he collaborated with a lot of artists and there are ghostwriting rumors and this and that? And yeah, but that happens, believe it or not, to some artists that you would think writes their own stuff completely. I yet have heard a full hip hop lyrical verse written for Drake, right? If you go to all these hip hop records that he has, the more hip hop ones, like 5 a.m. in Toronto, 9 a.m. in Dallas, these like time zone records and tracks that you just are straight bars that you're getting from Drake, I've never heard a ghostwriting of that. Now, these pop type of records where it's like, more of a melodic sound to it, you have Quentin Miller, you have a few people like Lil Yachty, stuff like that. So Drake is more of a collaborator. Meanwhile, Kendrick is more me, and I'm doing it this way, and this is the way I want to execute it. So, yeah, overall, great take on that, man. I always like when legends speak on things. But, yeah, we'll see if they ever squash the beef, man. That would be really cool. Lil Durk, let's get into it. Durk has been officially picked up by the feds for a plot of murder for hire. Let's talk about why he got arrested. Let's talk about the story behind everything that's going on. And then let's talk about what to expect moving forward, because there's a lot of different ways this whole thing can play out. Lil Durk was officially picked up by the feds Thursday night, October 27th. He was actually at the airport booking 3 different flights. Yes, he tried to essentially escape. This is the same place where they caught Diddy at the Miami airport, and they ended up stopping him in his tracks because he was potentially doing the same thing. What Lil Durk tried to do here is to outsmart the feds. I'm sure he got some type of information that the feds were closing in on him, so he booked 3 separate flights. One was to Dubai, one was to Switzerland, and one was a private jet to Italy, in order to outsmart the feds, to have them guessing where is he actually going. But, hey, they caught him 1 hour before he was set to leave. Durk then that night was taken to Broward County Jail, and he is set to be deported to California because that's where the murder happened. He got charged on murder for hire. The interesting thing about the murder for hire charge is that it comes with 3 different sentencing, and it all depends on what happened to the person that was set to be murdered. The first time is 0 to 10 years, and that's just plotting to do it. Not injuring the person, not murdering them. You can get 0 to 10 years if you get caught before anything happens. The second one is you can face 10 to 20 years if you actually injure the person for the murder for hire. And then the last one is you can face life or death in prison if the person actually gets killed. And in this case, the person did get killed. And who is the person? According to the feds, this all dates back to when King Von, who is Lil Durk's artist and friend, got killed back in Atlanta in November of 2020. A brief synopsis of what happened that night that King Von got killed was that King Von was scheduled to go to a club, ended up going there, saw Quando Rondo, who is the person that he had issues with, and Quando Rondo is tied to NBA Youngboy's crew, saw him, wanted to fight him, but Quando Rondo's friend, Lil Tim, ended up shooting King Von, and King Von ended up dying that night. Ultimately, in that situation, Quando Rondo's friend, Lil Tim, got no charges for murdering King Von because Georgia has a stand your ground self-defense law, and they deemed it was self-defense, that his life was threatened in that situation, and he had the right to use force in that situation. Well, of course, that didn't sit well with Lil Durk, so he decided, according to the feds, to take things into his own hands when it comes to King Von's death. The reason why the feds got involved in this situation is because this happened in a lot of different states, so that made it very easy for the feds to get involved instead of local authorities. If it just happened in California, then it would be local authorities, the LAPD, whatever, in that place that would take care of the murder that happened. But because it happened from Chicago to California to Atlanta and all things tied together, it was a lot easier for the feds to get involved because they deal at that level when multiple states are involved. So let's go over the documents that the feds released about what happened, what was the retaliation from that King Von murder. The document starts out saying the grand jury charges inductory allegations. At times relevant to this indictment, defendants Kayvon London Grant, also known as Cuz, a.k.a. Vonnie, DeAndre Wilson, a.k.a. Diddy, Asa Houston, a.k.a. Boogie, and co-conspirators 1 through 5 were members or associates of an organization called Only the Family, or OTF, which among other things produced and sold hip-hop music from artists primarily from the Chicago, Illinois area. Defendants Keith Jones, a.k.a. Flocka, and David Brian Lindsay, a.k.a. Brown Eyes, were members of other gangs in Chicago, Illinois. OTF is obviously Lil Durk's label, so off the rip, it's already tying Lil Durk in this situation. Now they go over the King Von incident that happened. On or about November 6, 2020, DB. Now, who is DB? Davon Bennett, a.k.a. King Von. Davon Bennett is King Von's real name. A high-ranking OTF member. The reason why they didn't name specifically King Von in this, because then you would start getting a lot different parties involved, and they wanted the main focus to be Lil Durk and the OTF crew. So they just mentioned Davon Bennett, and, King Von has passed away, so I'm sure they're going to figure out other ways to tie King Von to this situation a lot deeper. But right now, they're just naming King Von as DB, a.k.a. his real name, Davon Bennett. It says a high-ranking OTF member got into a physical altercation with TB. Who is TB? That is Quando Rondo. His real name is Taquan Terry Bowman. So TB is Terry Bowman. And with TB at a nightclub in Atlanta, Georgia. During the fight, an associate of TB pulled out a gun and shot DB multiple times, killing him. Who's the associate? Lil Tim. That's the guy who actually shot King Von, killed him, and then got out because it was self-defense. After the murder, co-conspirator 1 made clear in coded language that co-conspirator 1 would pay a bounty or monetary reward and or make payment to anyone who took part in killing TB, a.k.a. Quando Rondo, for his role in King Von's murder. So co-conspirator 1 is allegedly Lil Durk. Lil Durk put out a bounty saying, hey, I'm going to give you guys this amount of money. I want Quando Rondo killed, period. And from that money, you'll also get lucrative music deals or whatever, like cars, houses, so on and so forth. Then it talks about the shooting that happened that was targeted towards Quando Rondo. There was a hit on Quando Rondo. They found his location in California, and they tried to kill him, but they ended up killing his cousin. So let's go over it. On or about August 18, 2022, the conspirators learned that TB, aka Quando Rondo, was staying at a hotel in Los Angeles, California. As alleged in counts 1 and 2, after learning of Quando's location, defendants Wilson, Jones, Lindsay, and Houston, and co-conspirator 2 traveled from Chicago, Illinois to Los Angeles, California for the purpose of murdering Quando Rondo. On that same day, August 18, 2022, defendant Grant also traveled by a private jet to Los Angeles, California. As alleged in counts 1 and 2, on August 19, 2022, defendants Grant, Wilson, Jones, Lindsay, and Houston, and co-conspirator 2 used 2 vehicles to track, stalk, and attempt to kill Quando Rondo by gunfire, including with a fully automatic firearm, resulting in the death of SR. SR is Quando Rondo's cousin. His cousin goes by the name of Lil Pab. He was the one that was fatally killed that day and not Quando Rondo, even though the hit was for him. Continuing on in the court documents, paragraphs 1 through 4 of the introductory allegations of this indictment are realleged and incorporated here. So, object of the conspiracy, beginning on the date unknown but no later than on around August 18, 2022, and continuing on or about August 19, 2022, in Los Angeles County within the Central District of California and elsewhere, defendants, and they name all the defendants, and co-conspirators, known and unknown, conspired and agreed with each other to knowingly use facilities of interstate and foreign commerce, namely airplanes, cars, cell phones, and the internet, with the intent that the murder of Quando Rondo be committed in violation of laws of any state, namely the state of California, as consideration for the receipt of, consideration for promise to agree to pay anything of pecuniary value, namely money and lucrative music opportunities with OTF. So they break down and reiterate a little bit more of exactly what was purchased. Defendant Grant would procure cars, ski masks, firearms. So they got ski masks, all this stuff to go and kill Quando Rondo. Everybody on the internet was commenting under Lil Durk's social media posts, slide for Von. What does slide for Von mean? Basically, get your retaliation for what Quando Rondo and Lil Tim did to King Von. People were pressuring Lil Durk to get your retaliation, and it looks like Lil Durk has done that. And he's talked about it in his music, and we'll talk about that a little bit later while I'll break down some of the lyrics of basically him snitching on himself. I know in music you can kind of pass it a little bit as entertainment, But some of this stuff is a little too detailed to be passed as entertainment. Now, the interesting thing is there is a co-conspirator number 4 in this indictment that allegedly told Lil Durk and all of the people that he hired to kill Quando Rondo that Quando Rondo was in Los Angeles and gave the hotel location. So this person is allegedly right now being named already online. They also reveal in this indictment that co-conspirator 1, who is assumed to be Lil Durk, texted co-conspirator 3, "Don't book no flights under no names involved with me." So the feds have text messages, obviously have all these people's information, because you leave an electronic track record when you're doing this stuff. When you're booking flights and shootouts happen that specific day or around that time, it can easily look like you're the one that did something. They used credit cards, which was an OTF, only the family credit card. And co-conspirator 3 purchased airplane tickets for all those defendants with that credit card. They booked hotels under their real names and even got rental cars. Now, they also got locations of where they purchased the ski masks, which was in a sporting goods store in Los Angeles. They used cash to purchase that, so they probably got footage of them going in there purchasing those ski masks. They got a bunch of stuff. They know exactly what hotel they were at. And another crazy thing is they talk about how these individuals modified their guns so they can be fully automatic, which is a switch. It's slang talk is called a switch, right? Switch guns are illegal for one, and two, are going to give them a lot more time than they usually would get if it was just a regular gun. The 2 cars that they rented was a BMW sedan from a rental car company in Los Angeles and a white Infiniti sedan. Both white cars, but the Infiniti had a fake license plate on it, which doesn't make any sense. It's like one car doesn't, the other does. Very, very sloppy work. On here, it reveals that they were waiting for Quando Rondo to leave his hotel room with both those white cars, the Infiniti and BMW. He left his hotel room, got to a weed dispensary location, got out of there, and as he was driving, he ended up in an alleyway near a gas station, and that's where they felt that was the best time to actually, try and kill him. And in the images, it shows the shooters coming out. The person that was actually outside chilling next to the Cadillac was Quando Rondo's cousin, Lil Pab. And he was the one that ended up getting shot because I'm sure they assumed that that was Quando Rondo. But Quando was actually inside the store that he was at. So he ended up avoiding the shooting because he was in the store. They mistakenly got the wrong person. But, they tried, and it was a failed attempt in terms of Quando Rondo. Obviously, his cousin got killed, which hurt him. After this, murder, they drove to a hamburger restaurant where co-conspirators discussed, among other things, payments to defendants Jones and Lindsay for shooting earlier that day. So they're already talking about, we want our money for doing the act. On that same day, they again used the OTF credit card and purchased 3 airline tickets from San Diego, California to Chicago to fly defendants Wilson, Jones, Lindsay, and Houston, and co-conspirator 2. In this indictment, it's also revealing that after the murders, Wilson did pay defendants Jones and Lindsay on behalf of co-conspirator for their role in the murder. The question here is, how did the feds know all this information? Where did this information come from? Well, like I said earlier, in a murder for hire plot, if somebody gets killed, you're facing life or death in prison. It's just that simple. And there are 2 other things as well. You can be an accessory before the fact and accessory after the fact. The people who drove the car being an accessory after the fact aren't going to be facing much time, 5 to 10 years, because they didn't have an actual plan in the murder. They didn't provide guns. They didn't talk about, plotting somebody to kill somebody. They were just the drivers, and that's it. They're not really going to face a lot of time, 5 to 10 years, which any amount of time is a lot of time, but, that's not as bad as life in prison, right? The people before committing the crime, they're the ones that plotted for this murder for hire, provided guns. If you're helping and aid this murder, you're going to be facing the same time as everybody, whether you pulled the trigger or not. That's just how it goes. If they find proper connections, which I think they did because they picked him up, he's going to be facing life in prison. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. There was a member in Lil Durk's OTF crew by the name of OTF Jam. And this is the person that the feds said wore a wire for several years. He was released from prison in 2022, which is the same year that this murder happened. And the Fed said that he wore a wire since he got released from prison. and gathered information slowly for the Lil Durk murders that he was plotting. They said they caught iCloud records. They caught voice recordings of Lil Durk allegedly ordering hits on people. They caught a bunch of things, right? You know, when somebody's wearing a wire, they're going to catch you saying a lot of crazy things. The crazier thing to this whole story is that Lil Durk looked out for OTF Jam. He did an interview and talked about how while he was in prison, Lil Durk paid for everything that he needed, took care of him before he got out of prison. When he got out, Lil Durk gave him $50,000, a car, and a house, and looked out for him. But instead, he decided to flip. And the reason why he decided to flip is because after these murders happened, right, this murder, at least on Quandarano's cousin, Lil Pab, happened, the feds said, hey, we know what's going on in this situation. We got all these details. So they said, let's go talk to all these individuals involved and explain to them that they're facing life or death in prison. And one of these guys is bound to flip and become a snitch and informant and tell us everything that happened. So they go to the first guy, say, hey, look, you're facing life or death in prison. Would you like to cooperate? Nope. Go to the second guy. Nope. Third guy. Yeah, I'll cooperate. What am I looking at in terms of time? Well, we're not guaranteeing you anything, but anything you tell us, we can't use, they'll give a proffer agreement is what it's called. They'll give you a proffer agreement and say, hey, anything that you say to us that we don't already know, we won't use against you, right? And any new information you give, we'll decide on what that is, and, we'll see what we can do with your time. So instead of doing life in prison, they could potentially reduce it to 20 years, 15 years, maybe even 10, which is way better than spending your whole life in prison. So he decided to flip, got a bunch of information on Lil Durk. And the crazy thing is, Lil Durk has been saying this in his music. It's almost like he spoke it into existence. There's a track called Federal Nightmares on his 7220 album that came out in 2022, the same year that Lil Pab got killed, Quandarano's cousin. And in the first verse, he says, delete my iCloud if I think they're really on me, though. When trial come home, it ain't on your phone, it be your homie, though. He on stand with his head down like he don't know me, though. It ain't no point in getting no lawyer if your homie told. Straight up predicted everything that somebody's going to snitch on him. And Durk has a insane hate for snitches. So this is not going to go over well. I don't know how OTF Jam is going to survive whenever he gets out, prison after all the years that he's going to be serving as well. The interesting thing in the indictment as well is those co-conspirators that are, mentioned 1 through 5. Some of them are obviously snitching. It's not just one person. It's not just OTF Jam, because it's revealed that, out of the 3, 1 booked flights for the shooters, 1 told OTF about Quando's location, and 1 was the actual shooter. So something's going on where there's more people snitching. And Durk, throughout the years, not just off that track, but has been always talking about the murders that he's allegedly committed or got revenge for. If you go over the Babyface track, which is called Wonderful Wayne, this track was released in 2022, late 2022. And in the verse, Durk says this, fuck the state, tell him suck my with your telling ass. Trendsetter, I feel like I'm the one who can bring Pellet back. Born him steal from me or snake me out, I'm bringing Melly back. He's talking about YNW Melly, who killed his own friends. He's saying if they snake me out or tell on me, I'm going to kill them. That's basically what he's saying. So here's the connection of the OTF snitch and how that guy's going to have his own issues down the line. He said, I don't beef with guys on the net. That shit fed years. One op that I hate from over there just got his head pierced. Look at this. He's just telling himself. He says this, though. This is the most haunting thing, because when you look at NBA Youngboy and Lil Durk, they're both going to be potentially facing insane sentences, right? And they just threw their whole generational wealth down the drain. This is what Durk said in this verse. He says this, I think about my brothers that I lost. I'm in my feelings. It's fucked up that I'd rather get revenge instead of millions. Look at that. He's just saying it right there. I'd rather get revenge for the people that, the people that killed my people, instead of making millions of dollars and moving on from the situation. There you go. He just said it in his own lyrics, right? A lot of people have said that these two just threw away everything. If you don't know the story behind the whole beef of NBA Youngboy and Lil Durk, check out my video, NBA Youngboy versus Lil Durk, What Really Happened. I broke that down perfectly on there. And to be honest with you, it just stems from a female. That's all this whole thing stemmed from something that happened with females. That's it. This could have been all avoided. But instead, they go this route of doing this stuff, and look where they end up now. Durk especially was on a run. He had his biggest charting song with All My Life and J. Cole. That debuted at number 2, his highest charting song ever as a lead artist on the song. Obviously, he went number 1 with the Drake record, but that was Drake's track. As a lead artist, he was on a roll in his career, and he's kept going to the next level as time went on. And now you've thrown it basically all the way. Going over another track where he talks about the shooting that happened to Quando Rondo and his cousin getting killed. This is a track he just released last year off his latest album, which was Almost Healed. It's a track called Same Side featuring Rob 49. And in his verse, he actually samples Quando Rondo, who was screaming on video after his cousin got killed. He samples that scream in this song. So he made it clear as day in this verse he's talking about Quando Rondo and actually putting a hit on him. He says this in the verse. Yo homie died, you jumped in front of that fire, think you a lifesaver. Y'all laughed when bro died, when yo bro died, you turned into a crybaby. He's talking about you guys laughed when King Von got killed, but when your cousin got killed, you started screaming like a crybaby. Then he says this, jumped out of both sides with that 4-5, that boy can't hide Caney. Even though you on papers, gotta keep a gun, Brody, don't drive crazy. I just beat the same gun case with the same lawyer that 9 gave me. I ain't giving no guns up. I got the same gun that Slime gave me. And he's talking about this lawyer that helped him in the 2019 shooting that involved King Von as well in Georgia. They were caught on camera shooting some stuff, but the lawyer was so good that all the charges got dropped in 2023. So he's bragging in this saying like, you know, I got gun cases that got dropped. I ain't got to worry about nothing. I have enough money to make the lawyers make all this go away. Hey, to a certain extent, you can only get away with stuff so far. Doesn't matter how much money you got. Eventually, if you fuck up, you're going to fuck up at one point, and it's going to tie to you. And this seems to be the moment. Because he, and his songs would always say, listen, I'll never get jammed up because I know how to move properly. The only way I'll get jammed up is if somebody snitches on me. Well, there you go. Somebody snitching on you. That's most of the street code. Everybody says they won't snitch, but when that time gets presented in front of you, that you could be potentially facing life in prison or a death sentence, people get to thinking. And they start changing their mind. And people start snitching and talking, and then you go down for everything. Now let's talk about what I think is going to happen moving forward. This is just my thoughts. There's no like actual proof of this stuff, or right now the feds haven't really said anything. But I think Lil Durk is going to go down for a lot more murders. I think he is involved in a lot more murders, especially with FBG Duck. FBG Cash as well got killed just, I want to say, a couple months later after FBG, like maybe 6 months to 8 months later. He got killed as well. And there were other people that got murdered. And I think the feds were building an OTF RICO type of case, but they started noticing, hey, we're getting ties, we're getting snitches, so now let's just bring these guys in so they can't escape, and then let's build that case even further. Because Durk is going to go down for a lot more things than just this shooting. 100%. FBG Duck's mom even sued Lil Durk just recently for allegedly having something to do with her son's murder. And here's other murders that the feds are potentially going to charge Lil Durk with. And this is crazy. So D-Thang is Lil Durk's brother. He ended up getting killed as well. And the feds apparently have evidence that Lil Durk had a role in killing a guy by the name of Stefan Mack, who allegedly killed his brother D-Thang. Durk got revenge for his brother getting killed, and Stefan Mack ended up getting killed. And they're saying, the feds are saying that there's potentially evidence in this situation, and we're going to charge him with that murder as well. But it gets crazier. So OTF Jam, the guy who snitched, who was wearing a wire throughout these years, there are reports that Lil Durk found out about the snitching. I don't know at what time frame, but because of that, they killed OTF Jam's child's mother, his baby mama. She was somebody that was a postal office worker, and she got killed while on duty doing her job as a postal worker. Now, when you kill a postal worker, that's a federal employee. You're going to have charges out the ass. They don't play about that. That's a federal employee. When you kill a federal employee, that's a huge, huge, huge deal. Obviously, a regular person getting killed is a huge deal. Anybody getting killed is a huge deal. But a federal employee, it's over. If they link those, as well as FBG Duck and any other murders that Durk has talked about, I'm telling you, there's no way in my mind that Lil Durk gets out of this situation. He is going to get life or death because here's the thing. King Von, there was a lot of talk about him being a serial killer and all this stuff and all these murders he had. Well, Lil Durk is being tied to quite a few murders as well. Now, did he actually pull the trigger on these things? No, but if you pay and if you facilitate these things, you're just as guilty. I don't think Lil Durk gets out of this situation. He can go ahead and kill the people that are snitching. I still don't think he gets out of this situation because they'll tie that somehow. The only way he gets out of this situation is snitching himself. But obviously he does that. Any reputation, his career, everything is gone at that point. He can't come back and drop music and nobody's going to listen to him. Nobody's going to respect him anymore. And if he snitches, he's going to have to leave the country and go live off to the sunset somewhere in Brazil or something, or somewhere just outside of America, because they're going to get revenge on him if he does snitch. Obviously, there's going to be retaliation for that. But I don't think he's going to do that. I think it's just a wrap. He knew this was coming. He's at the age of, I think, 32 years old. Very unfortunate, man. And I want to remind people, this is not hip-hop. This is not hip-hop. I've said this millions of times. This is not what hip-hop is about. I don't like the death talk, making fun of dead people, the tuka, smoking on tuka, all this shit that hip-hop has turned into. I'm not saying all of it. I don't want to blame all of hip-hop because there is a lot of artists that are doing amazing things and delivering great music in hip-hop. So this should not be the image of hip-hop. That's the number one thing that upsets me. I get very frustrated when these things get covered and people think this is all that hip-hop is. This is not hip-hop. These are gangsters that ended up becoming entertainers. And they never could get their foot out of the streets. What do I use as an example? 50 Cent. Guy was in the streets deep. Got shot, said, hey, this is my chance. Let me try to really, I got my karma for everything. Got shot, almost died. Let's turn this table around. He got $1 million deal from Eminem. And Tony Yayo, what did he think to do with that money? Buy a bunch of drugs and flip it. 50 said, you're stupid. This is legal money. We're officially out of the streets. Let's keep it that way. Stop doing dumb things. And one of 50's right-hand mans at the time, his name was Bangum Smurf, he started doing crazy stuff in the streets. And 50 said, I want nothing to do with this, and kicked him out of his group and never talked to him ever again. 50, I remember word for word in one interview, I don't remember what interview he said, but he was like, they were just shooting shit up in New York. And he was like, what are you guys doing? You guys are fucking up the money. And Durk said it in his lyrics right here. I would rather get revenge than chase millions. This is a guy who's up 20, 30, 40, I don't know how much he's worth, how much money he's made, but he's made at least $20 to $30 million. And he's thrown it all away over something that was genuinely stupid. It was one of the dumbest things to crash out over. But Durk knew this was coming. He knew that this was coming. He spoke about it millions of times. Everyone with a brain that actually listened to the music and knew what was going on knew eventually this would happen. It was just a matter of time. It was just getting the informant, getting the pieces of information together, and tying it all together. He's going to be charged with a lot more murders. I'm telling you guys right now, he's going to be charged with at least 3 murders. This one with Quando Rondo, and I know those 2 other ones the feds haven't officially mentioned, but people are tying it to that. At least 3. I'm going to assume as well FBG Duck, and I think there's one more I'm forgetting. Maybe FBG Cash as well, because they did slide on him and kill him as well. So those 5, I'm predicting. I don't know if they have information on FBG Cash because they still haven't even figured out what happened there. But FBG Duck, it happened in a high-profile area. When things like this happen in high-profile areas, there's a lot easier chance of getting it solved, right? I'm not saying that Durk has anything to do with FBG Duck or Cash, or I'm not throwing that on his name or anything with OTF, none of that. This is all just speculation on my end. But I do think he's going to be charged with more murders. One is just not, he's talked too much in his music. He's done too much to just have one murder. But that's my thoughts on it. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. He did get the keys to the city. He was changing his image up, but that didn't work, man. Once you do dirt in the past, it's not just going to go away, especially murders. There's no statute limitations on murders. You're going to constantly have to think about what you did. And eventually it's going to catch up to you, whether you like it or not. we'll keep our eyes posted if there's more new information coming out, which there will be. But the feds definitely, if they get involved in the situation, they know that they got a lot more information. They're going to piece together all this stuff, the lyrics, the locations, the credit cards, everything. And it's not going to look good for him, man. He is going to do, my prediction, life in prison or even the death penalty. I don't know if they serve it in California, but there's specific laws everywhere. He could potentially get the death penalty, especially if they get a bunch of murders on him and they can prove it and he gets guilty of those. He could face death penalty. And at the age of 32, that is being a multimillionaire to face a death penalty. That dramatic shift in life is insane. That's like the craziest shift in life ever. That's literally going from top to literally from the top of the top 1% earner in the whole world to the bottom of the barrel death penalty. Insane. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes posted and see what happens moving forward. Continuing on, New Music Friday. Summer Walker dropped Heart of a Woman. Polo G dropped SIP. G Herbo dropped Big Swerve 2.0, the album. Megan Thee Stallion dropped Megan Act 2, the album. Tyler, the Creator, dropped NOID. Gucci Mane and Sexy Red dropped You Don't Love Me. Wiz Khalifa dropped Hold It, featuring Don Toliver. The Weeknd and American Dad, The Weeknd's Dark Secret. I guess it's a collaboration with the American Dad TV show. But yeah, shout out to all these artists that released album sales. Yeet. Lifestyle debuted at number 1. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, man. I never really looked into Yeet as an artist, but I did hear some tracks off this album and I actually like it. I'm not even gonna front. I usually don't like these type of sounds. I don't know. Like, this is a new generation of sounds. I'm gonna be honest. I sound like old head saying this, but I actually genuinely like the album. So I'm gonna check out more of it. And debuted at number 1. Shout out to him. Congratulations to him. And it sold 85,000 copies the first week. So almost 100,000. Really, really cool. Number 2 is Sabrina Carpenter, Short and Sweet, with 77,000. Number 3 is 17, 12th mini album, Spill the Feels. And that debuted at number 3 with 67,000. Jelly Roll is at number 4 with Beautifully Broken with 67,000. Rod Wave is at number 5 with Last Lap at 66,000. Glorilla Glorious is at number 6 with 49,000. Number 7 is Gracie Abrams, The Secret of Us, with 48,000. Number 8 is BX The Plug, Take Care, at number, I said 8 already, with 48,000. Billie Eilish, Hit Me Hard and Soft, number 9 with 47,000. And Morgan Wallen, One Thing at a Time. This thing hasn't fucking left the top 10 since I started this podcast. I'm not even joking. Is at number 10 with 46,000. Going down the list, SZA SOS number 18 with 28,000. Future mixtape Pluto is at number 20 with 25,000. Let's see. Eminem Curtain Call number 35 with 17,000. Travis Scott Utopia, which is right above it, number 34 with 17,000. Future Metro Boomin, We Don't Trust You, number 39 with 16,000. Eminem The Death of Slim Shady, number 42 with 16,000. Drake For All the Dogs, number 44 with 16,000. Tyler, the Creator, Igor, is at number 47 with 15,000. Interesting. And that's it for today's episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast. As always, appreciate you guys. Spotify, Deezer, Pocket Cast, YouTube, all that. Have an amazing night, day, whenever you listen to this, and peace.